There we go. Coming in. Usually this is my time, 1 o'clock on Mondays, when I am live in the Facebook group. Here we go. Coming in. Usually this is when I am live. Okay, there we go. Sorry. So some folks are probably here because they're used to joining me at this time. And then it's also, of course, my very last little bonus bit of tidbits and wisdom to share with you from the Path to Presence retreat. So it's a slightly longer session if you're my usual Monday crowd, where I usually just we have a short talk and we sit for sort of 20 to 30 minutes. Today will be more like the usual retreat time, 40, perhaps 45 minutes. And today, in this final bonus, we look at the question of why not? We've been looking at why and when, where, who, how, and now we kind of circle back and we ask the question, why not? And so in today's little bit of a talk, we get to look at the big no and what gets in the way, how we can overcome obstacles and limiting beliefs to show up regularly in this consistent meditation practice, this habit that we're building or refining. So the moment of no is resistance. And some of this actually I'm going to draw from this book here that I haven't brought out to you yet, called Just Sit. And this is a kind of humorous, colorful, illustrated, little playful, but well-written guidebook for getting a meditation practice up and going. And I just like this illustration, so I like to share the moment of no, this kind of monstrous looking, mouth open, this kind of, which they link it to like a small child demanding to not eat dinner. So the moment of no is basically resistance, which is actually happening all of the time through daily life in many small ways. The more you sit and practice meditation, the easier it becomes to notice the moment of no. And this is inevitably something that's going to come up in a meditation practice, even if you're showing up all the time and every day. And I'll read a tiny section from here. How do I deal with the moment of no? Sit and observe him. Watch him and maybe feed him lunch or a glass of wine and then send him on his way. This transforms the moment of no into the moment of go. You can move through and beyond him. You are aware of him, but you don't have to take his orders. Your job, observe, observe, observe. Which is similar to what I always say, show up and pay attention, just notice. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the common obstacles to meditation, both in terms of like the logistical aspect, fitting it into your life, showing up practice, and some of the deeper things we'll just touch on a little bit. So as you're watching, even if it's a replay, maybe I won't address it in the live, but feel free to write in and let me know what kinds of resistance you've noticed in your practice. What has your moment of no been like? Some of the more common things might be like sleepiness, restlessness, doubt, discomfort, things like this. And talking about how to overcome obstacles, we've already touched on the importance of self-compassion, right? We want to open up some space to recognize and allow, turning towards and befriending difficulties, as opposed to shutting them out or trying to manage them in some other way. So the good news is sometimes meditation can be the answer as well as the sort of trigger for some of these moments of resistance. And when we're able to continually show up consistently and sitting when things are difficult, when there is some suffering happening, this is often when you need that practice the most, when you need that support. But also remembering that we want to avoid some of the like false hope syndrome, and we want to actually count on the fact that life is going to get in the way, and our own resistance might be a part of that, our own limiting self-beliefs, resistance in all shapes and sizes, whether it's a small thing like, my knee is uncomfortable sitting in this position, or I'm really sleepy because I didn't get any sleep yesterday, or whether it's a much deeper kind of restlessness or aversion, or what we call the 5 hindrances, which comes out of Theravada Buddhism in Southeast Asia. And I talk about this and all of this a little more in that 6-week program called Mind Clear Heart, but I'll just touch on it now. The 5 hindrances are desire, often like sensual desire, but that kind of desire. Anger or ill will, which can often be like more of a strong kind of aversion. Sloth and torpor, or also translated as apathy and laziness. Restlessness, also kind of anxiousness, and doubt. So these 5 hindrances are negative mental states that impede our practice and lead us toward unwholesome action. And if the hindrance is slight, and often there's a combination of them, right? Then just awareness of them alone can be enough to dispel them. And you also want to start to pay attention to the absence of hindrances and celebrating moments of clarity, moments of connection. Celebrating those small wins will help you to continue to show up in your practice. So resistance comes in many forms, and we know that it can unfortunately really magnify the experience of suffering. So when it comes to practical stuff, we can talk on the more practical logistical piece of things. Then it can be really helpful. I strongly advise having a contingency plan for your meditation. Right? We got in our homework, we got to that stage of making an implementation intention, or a kind of a commitment statement, like a plan, basically. I will meditate for 5 minutes after brushing my teeth first thing in the morning, so that I can feel calm and focused throughout the day, or something like that, right? We kind of made that. And then you want to have some backup plans, some plan Bs and plan Cs for when the cues aren't working as well, or for when something seems to be getting in the way. Remembering that there's not one right way, so you can have a few different ways in. All right, so one of the more common bits of resistance that people will bring to me is sleepiness. A couple things to mention if that's an issue for you or that comes up. You might want to look at what time you are scheduling in your meditation. And is it close to when you might be sleeping? And are you getting enough sleep, right? And you want to actually take a pause to care for your own needs, have that self-compassion to care for what kind of rest and sleep you might be needing, but that you might not be getting. And look at your posture. So perhaps you're meditating lying down, or maybe you've just got the old-fashioned, the head drop, the slump, the head drop when you're sitting. You can try standing meditation. You can try meditating. Even if you're lying down, you can actually just raise your forearm so that your fingers are up in the sky, up in the air, or doing something that brings a little of alertness and intention into your body. This is a good way to kind of keep some alertness, keep some energy. But also ultimately remembering through all of these obstacles, all of the limiting self-beliefs, to be compassionate to yourself, because we are all human and we do all experience moments of difficulty, challenges that we don't know quite how to solve, suffering, things like that. So another common one is just simple procrastination. And I have a couple of good recommendations from my friend Giovanni on procrastination. Ultimately, he suggests pausing and becoming aware of the underlying pain prompting procrastination. You might even ask yourself, what pain am I avoiding now? And then allowing yourself to soften your commitment if needed, decreasing the pain of action, reducing friction. So maybe you need to be a little kinder to yourself, a little gentler to yourself. Maybe you can only sit for 2 minutes and kind of get used to showing up for a small bit of time. Another few questions you can ask is, what is the decision doing to my future self? This is part of the strategy of increasing the pain of inaction, asking yourself, what are the hidden costs of my inaction? What is, with the decision to procrastinate, am I training myself to succeed or to fail? So if you catch yourself procrastinating, this can also apply to, as I've mentioned, trying to make an audit of all of our habits and to try to find the other time. I call them time wasting habits, but they're kind of like procrastination as well. Things that aren't necessarily in service to the person you want to become, the kind of life you want to lead, all these kinds of things. So you can look at, for those things as well, when you're trying to make space in your day-to-day life for more meditation. You can also kind of look at what might be beneath, what might you be avoiding by, doing all the email or social media or some of those kinds of things. Doubt, which is one of the hindrances, but also a pretty can be run-of-the-mill type experience, a daily kind of experience, more mundane. There are typically 3 types of doubt. You're either doubting yourself, your capacity, you're doubting your path, whatever strategy you've got going on, you're doubting your goal or your purpose. So when you're doubting yourself, this can tend to come from believing that we're not good enough. And this kind of ties into like deeper self-limiting beliefs about all kinds of resistance that makes it hard to show up and be meditation. And it makes it hard for you to create the boundaries that might be necessary to really build it in instead of trying to fit it in. So a good little sneaky tip that my friend Giovanni mentions is the not now practice. You can actually use a kind of procrastination on your own doubt, which I think is quite clever. So you can try practicing not now when some sort of limiting belief that's typically not true, even the one that you're not good enough, right? Or some other kind of doubt shows up for you. It can be like, not now, and try procrastinating on your doubts, getting yourself a little more feet on the ground, a little more arriving in the present, kind of consolidating yourself, getting some perspective. You can also try another handy thing, which doesn't always isn't a typical solution to many problems, is really leaning into the impermanence of all things. So a great concept that we embrace in meditation and in a lot of the philosophies that connect with meditation is the idea that things are always changing and always shifting. And so sometimes we can kind of wait it out a little bit. And that's why, we acknowledge whatever form our resistance is taking, we acknowledge it when it's arising. And then, we can either kind of be like, not now, or get to know it, look underneath it, inquire, make those questions. What is the pain that this resistance is trying to cover up a little bit? Or we can also, we can kind of lean into the fact that, this too will also change and shift and pass in a way. So some of the other really simple limiting beliefs that might be closer to myths of meditation. I can't sit still for 20 minutes. This is actually kind of a funny one that does come up, right? Or I can't sit still for 10 minutes. This limiting belief can easily be brought into question when you think about time spent watching TV or doing work or on some kind of a commute, taking a public transport or something like that, right? Also, you want to watch out for those stories that go similarly. I'm too restless to meditate. I'm too distracted. I'm too anxious. I'm too busy. I'm too stressed. All the excuses. I know I've experienced them. I'm sure you've experienced them. If not about meditation, then about something else that that comes up quite often. These things will come up. I feel silly. I don't know what I'm doing. This belief that there is one right way to be doing it. So yeah, just noticing, just encouraging yourself to be curious about these moments of no, these moments of resistance that are going to show up for you, the more that you practice, the more that you sort of train yourself to notice all these little subtle, because they can be like, micro blips of a thought or something that still impacts our ability to show up. And then can you just acknowledge it, make a little space, allow it to possibly flow through, encourage it to move on, or kind of get to know it and what's underneath it before. I kind of like those 3 strategies for all of these obstacles, really. Another one that I want to mention is I forgot to sit one day. I forgot to practice one day. Or for a couple of days. So I just stopped. This idea that if you don't have this unbroken chain of meditation, then it's really not worth it. You've already failed, so you may as well stop. Trying to use that magic 2-day rule, that if you don't show up one day, it might be an accident, but if you miss 2 days, it might become a new pattern. But really getting used to the fact that you can restart and you can recommit anytime. You can go through a whole week Path to Presence retreat as a way of like answering all the questions, or you could just kind of start showing up. The most important thing is showing up and paying attention. So everything, all the retreat videos, couple little bits of housekeeping here. All the retreat videos are up on the replay. I put a playlist in YouTube as well as in the Facebook group. But I'd only have them up until Friday, because if I just left them up forever, again, speaking to that procrastination, I'm not sure that people would actually manage to do it. So I do make a time. They're up until this Friday. You can rewatch anything you want to. You can share with anyone that you want to who might benefit. Or if you missed something or you missed some part of it, you can rewatch it until Friday. That's also the time when I will close the registration for the 6-week program called Mind Clear Heart. And and there's actually, I'll have to find a good way to put this into an email or something, but there's a lot of different ways that you can continue to show up with me for free and for various levels of support. I'm here every Monday at 1:00. Some Mondays are holidays, or sometimes I'm away. There are days this is a time that I will sometimes skip because it is the middle of the day for me. But I should be here next Monday. The following Monday, I'll be on vacation. But I try to show up with some decent amount of consistency for you, just for short practice. And then I also have an ongoing meditation circle on Wednesday evenings, my time, where we meet just via Zoom, and it's a longer 45 to 60-minute class, and we have time for discussion and inquiry as well. Seaside Meditation Circle. And then the 6-week program that I run is twice a year. It's usually a few weeks after the Path to Presence retreat. So you get a chance to see how you're doing at this showing up everyday business, how you're doing with these moments of no and resistance. And then the 6-week program is a mixture of live and recorded content. So we have a weekly call that meets once a week via Zoom. We decide the schedule because people join from different parts of the world, and I try to accommodate. It's a small group, so usually we can accommodate. And there's a replay if somebody misses something as well. And then, and that will start in the first week of March. So it'll be like March until mid-April. We have that call, which includes sometimes some live exercises, sometimes some writing, or sharing and talking to others in the group. And then we also have, let's see if Zoom wants to let me do this today. Oh, no, it doesn't again. It's funny, huh? I was going to share with you the link, but yeah, it really doesn't like it. I don't know why it's doing that. Anyway, I have this class that is about, let's see, five little videos for each week. We have this online content, and it includes 2 meditations. They're around 15 minutes each. that are downloadable. So there's kind of content that you can work through online between those weekly calls. And then there's a one-on-one session as well to really kind of further dial it in and troubleshoot, what kind of obstacles are showing up, what kind of issues are showing up, how can the practice work a little better for you. So I give you the tools for the week in assessing your practice, but the 6-week is meant to have more of a guided progression and a little extra support that way. Okay. And is there something else? Every once in a while, I also will do on the equinoxes and the solstice, I'll do a longer 1.5 to 2 hour workshop using movement and meditation. So those are kind of the main ways to work with me or to continue to show up, things that can support your practice. And I encourage you to find other supports using all the different resources, all the different apps, podcasts, books, journals, communities, live and virtual, that are out there to support you. Now I want to come to the practice portion. And today we're going to be looking at beginner's mind and fresh eyes, looking at this idea of refreshing, because inevitably there will be moments of no, there will be resistance, there will be life getting in the way. And so we want to be able to really practice showing up again. Showing up is the most important part, right? Showing up and then kind of letting it unfold a little. So in this practice, we are going to kind of get back to the basics of meeting each moment with this openness and this curiosity. Just as when we kind of wake up to the wandering mind, the monkey mind, we kind of guide our attention back to the present. Like even in a few minutes of meditation, the mind tends to wander. And so we have to guide it back and show up once more, take our seat. So Suzuki Roshi has a pretty famous quote that in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few. So rather than getting entrenched in the way that we do things, including our habits of meditation or the way that we think things need to be done, or sort of what can become a little more limiting in terms of beliefs, we kind of really embrace this opportunity to have fresh eyes and many possibilities when we're cultivating that beginner's mind. So what do you have to let go of to meet the moment with fresh eyes? Just kind of holding that question out for yourself as a little curiosity. And, it of course can help to anchor in things like the breath or sensations in the body, to have a way in. And I've just been talking about this a lot in my meditation circle. That way in is really important, that portal that helps you come back. When you wander off in your practice, what is your way to come back? The 5 senses, or 6 senses, sometimes they're called, can be really helpful, which is why we did some practice with listening and having the eyes open. And we're just noticing. This is a little more of an open awareness practice today, as we're noticing the stream of life. And each step in the river is new, right? Heraclitus says, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man." So this is your task lying ahead of you, is to continue to show up, to pay attention again and again, bringing that curiosity and beginner's mind, showing up in the present, settling into those moments of ease and connection, finding that anchor into the present moment, and showing up when your mind wanders. Just as when the moments of no and that resistance arises, we kind of invite it in, provide some lunch and a glass of wine. We kind of get to know, maybe a cup of tea. We get to know the moments of resistance and try to do a little befriending. So we're going to do our practice now, and then I might read a poem a little bit that helps with the fresh eyes at the end here as well. So just take a moment here and settle in. I'm just checking there are no questions. Nope. Good. I'll have a last sip of tea. As always, set yourself up to succeed by being comfortable and supporting your body in whatever you need at the moment. There is no one right way. And just take a moment, maybe a little movement or a little stillness to help you settle, inviting your body to soften, closing your eyes if that's comfortable for you. We're working on the idea of fresh eyes. Closing the eyes is also letting your eyes rest, letting things just be as they are for a moment, remembering the importance of being, resting. And you might already have a go-to for where your attention tends to settle, to become anchored. As you begin to meditate, you might be noticing the breath or sensations in the body, or maybe you're anchored on sounds around you. If you're not sure, you can just pick one of those and stay with it. Letting the past remain in the past, letting the future remain in the future, and just coming to the present moment with some kind awareness. And all of this is ongoing. The mind will wander. We will show up once more in this moment, just noticing what's arising, getting to know the flow of breath, noticing where it's easy, where there's connection, and letting yourself rest there. Getting to know the sensations in the body. Holding out some curiosity. What does it feel like in your body now? It might be a certain area, or it might be the whole body as you settle and sit. And it might be that you have to invite the body to soften and to release any tension again and again. And see how these two things also work together. The more you're able to soften the body, the easier it is to connect to the breath. And the more your awareness follows the flow of breath, the softer the body becomes. As we're settling in these first few moments or minutes of practice, having a kindness towards yourself. Loosening any need or urge to control what's arising moment to moment, simply letting it be as it already is. Letting yourself be as you already are. This is a very deep kind of kindness. Softening resistance that might be arising, softening tension in the body and the mind. Resting in each moment, opening up a little awareness for whatever's arising. When the mind wanders and you wake up to how far off you may have drifted, just coming back once more. Maybe you note your hands on your lap, or your legs or folded together. Feel that point of contact. Notice the sensations. Feel your feet and legs on the ground. And softening the belly, noticing the flow of breath. And just showing up, paying attention. You might be curious about the wandering mind, the thinking mind, where it tends to go. It's common watering holes and spots it tends to spin off to. Sometimes that alone, that gentle awareness, is enough to take some of the force of resistance out of it a little. Every time you guide your attention back to the moment, doing so with kindness and compassion. When your attention has moved on to something new, you can even apply the noting technique, that whisper in the mind, refresh. And what is it like to open your awareness and include the wandering mind? Leaning into the fact that everything's always changing. And when the mind has grabbed on to something else and wandered off, and we wake up to the wandering mind, rather than judging it as a fault of ours, thinking I'm no good at meditation or something like that, can you instead see it as an opportunity, an invitation to wake up, to come to the present once more, to once again commit to showing up here and now. And inviting yourself to rest into ease. If you notice moments of resistance, moments of no, you might try saying, not now. Just resting in this moment, whatever is arising. Noticing what happens to the wandering mind or to whatever takes your attention for a moment when you include it in your awareness. And the mind has drifted on to the next thing, noting refresh, celebrating the opportunity to return again, to show up once more and pay attention with that curiosity, those fresh eyes. As you continue to show up again and again, and continue to awaken, and pay attention, to notice, resting in as much ease as you can find. I'll read this poem from great poet John O'Donohue called For a New Beginning. in out of the way places of the heart where your thoughts never think to wander. This beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness growing inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight when your courage kindled and you stepped out onto new ground. Your eyes young again, with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning that is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. Letting yourself ease out of the practice, maybe opening your eyes and including your surroundings into your awareness. Always pausing to notice how you feel now after a little practice. Sometimes these open awareness practices are quite challenging, but I think it's a great, I'm stuck in a mental loop for a moment. It's like practice is practice. It's a little metaphor, right? Because we're talking about this habit of your meditation practice and showing up consistently. And yet in that meditation practice, we have this little opportunity to continue to show up consistently. So this is kind of the beauty and the irony of it all. So I think it can be an important thing to practice with as much tolerance as you might have, right? That could change depending on how you're feeling and what's going on in your life. And so taking that kindness and compassion to yourself as much as you can, kind of open up to that flow and recommit again and again for yourself, right? Yes, the benefits that you wish to receive, and yes, the person that you wish to become. This is all kind of in service to yourself and to the world, really. So thank you so much for this week-long journey down the path to presence. And if you want to continue to work with me, the opportunities are there in a number of ways. And I didn't mention today, but I did make it the last day for a little special discount for anyone who wants to sign up to the Calm Mind Clear Heart. I give you a coupon for anyone else who you want to bring with you, a meditation buddy or someone else to have as part of your community, because it's usually better and more successful for everyone that way. Also fine to show up on your own, but I like to extend that as another incentivization. So yeah, thank you so much. If you have more questions, thoughts, comments, at some point I'll probably send out an email asking for feedback, but meanwhile you can always reach out to me directly as well. So thank you everyone for joining me, and until next fall when I offer it once more. May you have great ease and peacefulness and continue to show up. And maybe I'll see some more of you a little more soon.